First off, welcome to PSE's Your EV Partner virtual event. We're glad you're here. So just a couple notes, we will have chat open during today's event. So feel free to send us any chats and participate with us that way. You can also, if you have specific questions you would like to have us answer, you can put those into the chat, or sorry, into the Q&A. So if you have a question, make sure you drop it into the Q&A. We will have a dedicated time at the end of today's agenda where we will address as many questions as we can get to. And if we can't get to your questions on today's call, then we will follow up with an email. We have gotten some emails preliminarily, and so we'll try to get to those as well. So again, use the chat at any time. We will have a couple polls and we'll have a fun spin wheel, but you can use the chat anytime. And then we'll share any links in the chat as well. So if we talk about a link, we'll be sure to include it in the chat so that you can click on it for later. And the event will be recorded. Thank you for that question, Eric. We will be following up in the next couple days with an email and all of our all of the links that we share today and information that we share today. Let's see. So I think we can go ahead and have Trayvon talk about our safety moment.
Yeah. So one thing with PSE, safety is one of our most important values here. So we prepared this little safety moment here. So we have the 3 P's of winter road trips. First P is for prepare. You want to prepare for your trips. You want to make sure that you're checking your batteries, tire threads, windshield wipers, and keeping your windows clear and put no freeze fluid in the washer reservoirs. And check your antifreeze. You also want to make sure you have an emergency ready kit. This could include a lot of things, you know, tire wheel, chains, blankets, water, and also planning your routes ahead of time. Next P is protect. You want to protect yourself and others. You know, safety is important, obviously, here. Make sure that you have your seatbelts on. Use child safety seats as properly. You know, never place an infant in a rear-facing seat in the front. I think we all know that by now. And also, children under the age of 12 should be in the back seat. It's much safer back there. Our last P is for prevent. You know, preventing all crashes on the road is our best thing we can do, defensive driving. You want to slow down, increase your distance when driving between cars, and get plenty of rest for long trips. You know, there's no point in trying to strain yourself and be extremely tired out there on the road. It's not good for you. It's not good for everybody. So let's try those tips there. Just try to be safe on the road. And so, as we mentioned, my name is Trayvon Scott. I'm an energy advisor with PSE, part of the product development team. And then I have my little companion, Carmelo, who tends to pop in here and there in some of our videos. So that's the furry creature that might pop up. Next we have.
Hi, I'm Michael Harthorn. I'm the EV Customer Engagement Lead at PSE. If you've gotten our EV newsletter or seen any of our EV social posts, you've already heard from me.
Great, and I'm Megan Lochter. So I'm on the community involvement team, which means that we run virtual events. So typically we are out in the community talking to our customers face-to-face, but during this time we've transitioned to doing these virtual events, and we're having fun with that. So today we have a special guest joining us, and it's Dick Muri.
Welcome everybody. My name is Dick Muri. I'm a former state legislator, county council member, school board member, Air Force veteran, 22 years. But my main claim to fame around here lately has been my driving electric since 2013 and having the largest National Drive Electric Week in the Pacific Northwest every year since 2014. Yeah, I've had up to 125 vehicles, 30 different types of vehicles, and over 500 people at our last event. So it's downtown Steilacoom, the Saturday after Labor Day. Put it on your calendar, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Great.
All right. So thanks to everybody for attending. Just for being here. You guys will all be interested in a chance to win a car safety kit. Plus there's some extra goodies in here. One will include a tire inflator, which comes with a digital monitoring for tire pressure as well. You get a hand sanitizer dispenser, an air purifier, and also a phone holder that comes equipped with wireless charging. So everybody will be notified by the end of today after our session is over on who our winners are going to be, and there will be 2 of them. So in regards to that, let's kick this off with just we like to play a little game here. So we're going to ask you guys a couple questions. We're going to spin a wheel here, and feel free to submit your answers in the chat there, so you can kind of participate with us here. See what you guys think and test your knowledge. All right, so our first question today is a true or false question. And the question is, electric vehicle drivers will likely need to pay or replace the battery at some point. What do you guys think? Is that true or false? Mike or Dick, any suggestions here?
I know the answer, but I'll give you a hint. You might be pleasantly surprised.
I'd say it's false. I've been doing this a long time. I've never known anybody who had to change their battery out. So it's they last a long, long time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we got falses on our side here. Looks like we're getting a few answers in. Getting a lot of falses coming in, but I did see a good wave of trues. So let's see what our answer is. Oh, you already selected. Sorry. Yeah, so the answer is false. You're less likely to have to actually repay or replace that battery at the point of having that car there.
Yep. Most batteries are insured or under warranty by manufacturers for 8 to 10 years or up to 150,000 or 200,000 miles. Most Americans tend to replace their car before a decade of use, so most drivers will not need to replace their battery.
Nice. All right, let's give it another one real quick here. All right, charging and range. How many miles can you add to an EV's drive range per hour of charging with a level 2 charger? The type of charger you'll typically find at homes and workplaces. And so we're getting a lot of answers in here. We're getting some C's.
I will say it's getting better as electric vehicle batteries improve. So it really depends on your model and where you're charging. We're talking averages here.
Mm-hmm. Definitely does here.
I can
All right.
experience when the time comes.
Yeah. So, okay, there we go. Looks like our answer is C, between 10 and 25 miles. And as you did mention, Mike, it really does kind of come down to the car itself, and then as technology is improving to increase the power of those level 2 chargers. So, might even be shifting that answer pretty soon, actually.
That's right.
And
time next year, we'll have to update our questions.
Yeah.
I have a level 2 charger, and my experience is I get about 5 to 6 kilowatts per hour when at level 2, at least when it's half empty, and that's 20 to 25 miles.
Nice.
Okay, cool.
Per hour.
Right in that range.
Mm-hmm. Sweet spot. Okay. Oh, one more question here. All right, for the environment. All right, what percentage of emissions in Washington State comes from transportation? Tricky question here.
I'm seeing a lot of correct answers in the chat.
Mm-hmm. Transportation has always been a big polluter with all this traffic and everything that we have.
You guys seem to be up on your emissions news.
All right, looks like most of you guys were correct here with C at 43%.
That's
So,
correct. And driving an EV, you can reduce your driving emissions by half. That includes the electricity generated here in Washington. So if you want to reduce transportation emissions, an EV is a good way to go.
definitely is. Since we're already in the topics of EVs and everything, I just want to take a quick poll to see how you guys are all feeling about them. For the direct question, are you guys thinking about an EV for your next car? If you are ready to make that switch, maybe you're still waiting out to see what type of body frames and drive range and charging infrastructure is going to look like for you. So let's go ahead and take a moment here so you guys can submit your answers there. Because myself, I've been thinking about getting one myself here, getting a new one, because that Mustang is looking real nice. I can say I'm pretty biased on that because Mustangs have always been my favorites ever since a kid. All right.
Got a new EV driver in the chat. Congratulations, Craig.
Yeah. 2020 Leaf in there. Okay, looks like we got some good results here. Good portion of you guys are ready to make the switch. And then we also have some people who are still waiting to see what's out there. You guys are a pretty good boat there because there's going to be some good releases pretty soon coming up. There's going to be a wide range of EVs, and stay tuned. We'll talk about that a little further if you guys don't know what's out there. So we'll be able to lay something out there for you guys. All right. So, Mike, you want to go ahead and take us on?
Yes, I do. Let's just start off by talking about what an electric vehicle is, give you a little introduction. Not everybody is familiar with them. In Washington, we have one of the highest amounts of electric vehicles in the country. We have over 65,000 already. It's gone up rapidly in the last couple of years. And here at PSE, because we want to work with our customers to build a better energy future, we want to educate them on EVs, which we believe will play a part in that, and also just make it as easy as possible for you to make the switch when you're ready. Why go electric? It'll save you money. I know there's a higher upfront cost, though that is coming down. Incentives help with that. But multiple studies have shown that you'll save thousands of dollars over the lifetime of the vehicle, save over $1,000 every year on gas just by driving an EV. They're cheaper to maintain. There's no oil changes. And electricity, especially here in Washington, tends to be cheaper than gas. They're also better for the environment. We touched on this already. You can cut your transportation-related emissions in half just by driving an EV. Washington and PSE, our electricity is cleaner than the national average, so it's even better to drive an EV living here. Batteries the technology is evolving. We're finding ways to recycle batteries. They can power things like gas stations and sports stadiums. So if you're concerned about the environmental impacts of batteries too, there are things being done to address that. And finally, no one's going to buy a car that's not fun. EVs are fun to drive. I just heard from a lot of our customers in the last newsletter about how much fun they have with their car. They feel zippy. They have the latest technology. They're comfortable. They feel powerful when you accelerate. Just a lot of fun to drive. And then really quick, because I did see a question about it in the Q&A box, there is a difference between what we call battery-only electric vehicles, or BEVs, and plug-in electric vehicles, plug-in hybrid electric vehicles, which are PHEVs. So the difference is your BEV, that's no gas engine at all. You plug it in, the electricity is the only way you're going to go. With a PHEV, you do have a gas engine still. You're going to get, depending on the model, a couple dozen miles of electric range. So if you're just running to the grocery store or doing errands around town, the electric battery will get you where you need to go. But if you run out of juice, you have that gas engine to kick in and help you out on longer trips. You tend to get more savings with a BEV, battery only, because there's just not as many parts to take care of. But PHEV can be a great step toward going all electric, or if you have a lot of longer driving in your routine.
Nice. All right. Excellent.
All right. So because people tend to like when they hear savings. Let's talk about that a little bit more. A recent study from Consumer Reports found long-term ownership costs are $6,000 to $10,000 less than for a gas vehicle, even when taking into account higher purchase prices. So those savings are, like I mentioned, on gas and maintenance largely, but also electric vehicles tend to retain their value over time better right now than gas-powered vehicles. So if you take a look at these graphics, I know gas is a little cheaper right now, but it's still big savings. Yearly fuel cost for that Nissan Leaf over a comparable model is about $1,300 a year you're going to save on gas. Maintenance over 5 years, you're saving a little under $2,000. There's just not as much you're going to need to do to an electric vehicle. No oil changes, like I said. No transmission fluid. A lot of them don't have cooling systems that you need to replace coolant for. Really, you rotate the tires, you change an air filter every once in a while, and you're pretty good to go with an EV. And fortunately, I did see questions about charging already, also in the Q&A, so hopefully we can address a little bit of that here. One of the common misconceptions is that you need to upgrade or install a charging station at your home if you have an electric vehicle. That's not always the case. Every electric vehicle comes with a cord that you can plug into any standard outlet. I have a coworker who she still uses that. She's found it fine for her needs. I've heard from customers who got all ready to install a level 2 charger and then were surprised to find that they just didn't need to. They could plug into a regular outlet at night and have enough charge the next day for what they need. With that kind of charge, it's called level 1. You're going to get 2 to 5 miles of range per hour, again, depending on the vehicle, and you can just plug in anywhere. A level 2 charger, you'll see these at people's homes as well as at workplaces and in public areas. You need an outlet like you would have for a dryer or a washing machine. So you're going to have an electrician come to your house to install that. Usually the cost of a level 2 charger, the installation, is anywhere between $1,500 to $2,000. But again, it depends on your home, the model of level 2 charger you're installing, and the particular electrician. If you want to find out more about that, you can contact one of our energy advisors. We now do give recommendations for electricians who will give level 2 charger advice and installations for you, and we've worked with them many times. Dick, yes, you would like to say something.
I've installed 2 chargers in this house, and my previous home that now my other daughter lives was under $1,000. It was about $500 charger, and the electrician charged about $300. So I'd say $800 is more in the range. If you need a level 2 charger, and I've been doing this for almost 8 years.
Perfect.
The first 4 years, I just did level 1. So only reason I went to level 2 was just easier, better, I guess, but I didn't have to. So.
Yep, and I see in the chat here, Rachel says she got one installed last month for $1,000. So we need to update our pricing. Prices are coming down across the board for EVs, it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So the final kind of charging you'll see is a DC fast charging. You can find those in public spaces largely. They're large. They kind of look like gas station fill-ups, if you're used to seeing those. You'll get a full charge in there, about an hour, sometimes, again, depending on your vehicle, and the charging station, as low as 30 minutes for a full charge. We just installed some of these down in Lacey, and that's the picture you can see there. So if you are an EV owner traveling through Lacey, feel free to stop by our charging station. You can find that on your charging station maps. Yes, Charles, that's correct in the chat. Level 2 charging is 220 volts.
Mm-hmm.
So I know Trayvon's excited about a number of these models. There are over 24 EV models already out there, and there are a lot more on the way in 2021 and 2022. A lot of legacy automakers are starting to expand into the EV space even further. There are a lot of startups that are going to be putting new models on the market soon. And if you're looking for electric vehicle trucks, which I know a lot of people are, those are very rapidly approaching. So here's just a couple examples. You have the Tesla Model Y, which recently hit the market, Volkswagen ID4 as well, Ford Mustang's new Lordstown endurance truck. That's going to be for people who are looking to electrify their fleets largely. So if you're a business owner who wants some electric trucks, Lordstown is going to be a good way to go. Ford is working on an electric F-150. Nissan's finally introducing another model past the Leaf. It's just a lot of exciting stuff. And we have plenty of resources. If you're interested, we can share links for articles that round up all these new models coming out.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for this new wave of EVs. GM is also having a good output too. We didn't mention them, but
yep, couldn't put the Hummer on the screen, but the new electric Hummer definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I know you've been staring at that electric Ford Mustang every time we do these presentations.
Yeah, man, just look at it. It's pretty.
It
shines,
is. It is.
glossing, gleaming, amazing. Yeah.
All right. Now, you've probably heard me talk enough. We'd love to turn it over to our special guest so he can talk about his experience with electric vehicles and answer a few questions.
Well, yeah, my electric vehicle journey started in 2013. I was just reading online. I didn't even know anybody who owned an electric vehicle. I just went out and purchased one, and actually leased it because, the leasing deals were so good. And plus, just like your phones, you don't, want to always purchase them or you semi-lease them. I thought this would be great. I did that 2013. It was 24 kW. It was a great car, 36,000 miles. And then I got an offer from the Tacoma Nissan for a new one for 2016 at a lower price, a lower lease rate. And it had a little bit bigger battery. It went from 24 kW to 30 kW. Take that number times 4, and that's the approximate range that you get. So I went from having about 96-mile ranges to about 120-mile range. I used a level 1 charger for 4 years, and then finally decided to go level 2. Got a level 2 charger for $500. Had a friend who's an electrician installed it for $300, and it was all great. My kids, they think Dad's crazy. But they went and got I helped them get a EVs. 2 of my kids drive Nissans, and one drives a Chevy Bolt. I have my 2 daughter-in-laws. I have 2 sons who live in Boise, Idaho, and they thought their father-in-law is crazy. Well, you know what the really great thing that we haven't even talked about they really love in Idaho? The summers are really, really hot. So you have 2 little kids, a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and you go into Costco and you bring the little kids with you, and you come out to the car and it's 120 degrees in that car. Not with an electric vehicle. You just leave the air conditioning on. Because what people don't realize, that would be illegal to do with a gas car plus a waste. But you can do that with an electric car because the car is off, the car is locked, but the air conditioning runs off the battery. In an hour, you use maybe 10 cents worth of electricity. Come back to the car, it's 70 degrees. You don't have to worry about the kids getting hot or burnt. So, and the reverse is in the winter. It's you can do it from an app on your phone. You can have it air conditioned or turned on prior to you getting out there. So that's a nice feature. I was wanting to go to one of these National Drive Electric Week events. There was nothing in Pierce County, so I started my one in Steilacoom here. And every year it's grown to get bigger, bigger, and better. And it's one of the largest out of the 330 events that had 2 years ago. We were the 5th largest in the country. We had Dallas beat us, San Francisco beat us, LA. We're number 5, Steilacoom. Didn't really. When I was in legislature, I worked closely we started with a thing called the EV caucus. We had about 8 of our legislators that drove electric, and we worked on legislation for tax breaks and other types of things to make electric vehicles more amicable to the driving public here in the state of Washington. And I was actually honored in 2018, Plug in America had its first ever National City Captain of the Year award, and out of the blue I got called and said, can you come down to LA and accept this award? First ever awardee. So I went down to Los Angeles and gave a speech and talked about my EV experience. And here in Steilacoom and the areas around, we have a huge percentage of people getting electric, and it's all about leadership. You show how it can be done and how fun it is and how easy it is, and people will do it. And we have a lot of households where they have 1 electric, 1 gas. And I do have one other funny story I want to tell you. I have a friend of mine, he's 85 years old now, and he was 83 at the time, and his house could not support a level 2 charger, and he wasn't so sure about going on trips. So he got a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle based on my suggestion, a Honda Clarity. Goes 50 miles on a charge. He's owned this thing now for 3 years, and he's used 3 tanks of gas, and he drives about 7,000 miles a year. So, but the first 50 miles of his day is electric. And the only time he ever uses gas is if he goes on trips, and which is very rarely. So sometimes a plug-in hybrid, in this case, because he didn't have capability of level 2, his house is one of the oldest houses in the state of Washington, built in 1850. And he'd have to upgrade his electricity, so level 1 charger is the way he had to go, and that worked well. So what is the right electric vehicle for a person? It depends on their finances, depends on their travel modes, and it also depends on type of house they live in or apartment they live in. So.
Great. We'll address more questions later in the presentation here, but one thing I wanted to ask you about specifically, we always hear from people one of the big reasons they don't want to switch to an electric vehicle or they're not quite ready yet is range anxiety. They're afraid the electric vehicle won't be able to handle their daily travel needs, their commute needs. Right now, a new EV averages, one that's released in 2021, averages over 250 miles of range. But I know with your 2016 Nissan Leaf, you're getting around 150. Have you found that's enough for you? What would you say to a customer of ours who's worried about range?
If you're going on a trip, especially with apps on your phone, you know how far you're going. And if you have to go a lot of miles, you either have to find a place to plug in or go to an alternative vehicle, which is sometimes we do when we go to Boise 3-4 times a year. We take our gas car because our range is not. You need a car with at least 250 miles range to take it on trips, because if you only have 120 mile range and probably 90 on the highway, that would be too many stops, personally. So, but these new vehicles and the ranges are getting better and better. They're talking now standard cars going 300, 350 miles. It's because the battery technology is getting cheaper and they're able to put more electrons into a smaller space. And that's why the technology is just really getting good. It's cheaper and better. So.
Yeah. Nice, Dick. With that, talk about driving Idaho and all your different EVs and everything. What would be the farthest trip you've gone on in an EV?
Well, I did take my son's Chevy Bolt. I bought it here, and because I got it $10,000 cheaper here than I could in Boise, so I bought it here and I drove it to Boise, and so that was my farthest trip. And so I went to Boise.
Well, we'll address more of your questions in just a second here, but we'll move on to another poll.
Yeah. See how you guys are feeling right now. In your guys' opinion, what is the biggest misconception about electric vehicles and driving? A couple answers here. Are they too expensive? Lack of charging stations, limited range, or if you're feeling something else might actually be the cause? Go ahead and feel free to type that into the chat there and see how you guys think about this. For me, I would say the lack of charging stations, just for infrastructure. I know it's still developing quite a bit, and there's quite a few apps that are out there to try to locate some. But I still feel like there still needs to be a little bit more out there for people sometimes, who are kind of more out on the go usually.
Yep, that's something that's definitely happening. Next couple of years, I think we'll see a big explosion in available charging stations.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest misconception is that it's too expensive. If you look at a 10-year life, ownership, you actually save a lot of money. Even my car insurance rates are lower. The interest. I was talking to my insurance agent. One thing EVs don't have to worry about. Have you ever heard of an EV being stolen? Don't get stolen. So that's if you have a car that gets stolen often, that adds the rates to the rate. So it's car insurance rates are very safe. They're heavy. They're low center of gravity. They tend to be what they call level 5 for as protection. So they're a very safe vehicle, and they're very low maintenance. And of course, we always talk about gas versus electricity. It's about quarter of the cost. So, and again, maintenance, I've been driving for 8 years. No, other than new tires and getting them rotated, I've never done any zero maintenance. There isn't.
Yeah, I just heard from a customer who said he bought a 2013 Leaf, and since then he spent $400 total on maintenance, which is what he used to spend every year when he had a gas-powered car.
You'll never need a brake change with an electric car, especially the new ones. They rarely, there's automatic braking through the regeneration.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like limited range was the one most people selected. Like I mentioned a second ago, the new EVs, on average, you're going to have over 250 miles of range if you're buying a new EV. If you want to buy a used EV, there's plenty in the market, and there's incentives in Washington State for those. They're going to have less range, but if you're doing a lot of city driving or you have a second car, they'll still likely work out for your commute. You're looking at 100 to 150 miles of range, and most people drive less than that in a day.
Yep, that is very true. Let's see. Next, did you want to kind of tell everybody about our fancy new tool that you've been?
I do. This is the portion where I shamelessly plug our new PSE electric vehicle guide. We just launched it at the start of the year. It's a great tool if you're interested in electric vehicles, or if you already own one and are thinking about buying a newer model. That's ev.pse.com. You can browse and compare the latest models. You can even compare full electric vehicles versus plug-in hybrid electric vehicles versus gas-powered. See what your ranges are going to be, what kind of money you'll save, what incentives are available. You can personalize all of that based on your own driving needs. You'll find more information about incentives and emissions reductions. It's a lot of fun to play around with. We're very excited to have it. So I encourage everybody to go check out ev.pse.com. Hopefully you'll find a lot of answers to your questions, and more importantly, get excited about some of these very cool vehicles.
Mm-hmm. Amazing tool. I've tested it out a few times myself, and functionality is really smooth, easy to use and very legible, looks great, great graphics and everything.
I did see somebody in the chat ask about incentives for charger installation. They're both federal and state incentives for installing a level 2 charger at your home, and there's more information about those at ev.pse.com.
Nice. Okay, I think now is about time. So we're going to take a moment here just to kind of go through a few questions with you guys. Any additional questions, you guys can forward that over to our electrical vehicle inbox here. That's electricvehicles@pse.com. And then also, you guys, don't forget to sign up for our newsletter. Keep up with some more events and also market and information on what's going on with electric vehicles in the world and in the market. So let's take a moment here to kind of go through some of these questions that you guys had.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. We have had questions come in about the registration costs. Michael, could you address that?
Yeah, so it's true. Right now in Washington State, it's going to cost you more to register an EV than a gas-powered car. The idea there is it makes up for the gas tax that EV owners aren't paying. It is high. I'm not going to lie about that. However, you're going to more than make up for that increased registration cost with your savings on gas and maintenance. It's a couple $100 extra for the registration. Meanwhile, you're saving easily, or can save easily, $1,000 per year on gas alone. So higher cost when you register at the start of the year. Save that quickly elsewhere. Dick, did you have anything to add as somebody who's had to register EVs?
Yeah, multiple of them.
I do have one complaint, and I've talked to my fellow legislators, former legislators, that is that us that live in the Puget Sound area, we get the sound transit tax is based on higher value because you're also including the price of the battery. So my Nissan Leaf is still about $600 a year to register it, which is, I think, way too high. If anything, I can fault the legislature is for not looking at that and trying to lower the costs, especially for EV owners.
Yep, call your legislator. Agitate to get that lowered.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had the votes.
Great. We We have a question about the benefits of a hybrid over an EV or over so if you can just kind of explain the different, I know you touched on it, Michael, but if you can explain the hybrids and the battery electric.
Yeah, I did touch on it. So the difference is obviously one, you plug in both the battery only and the plug-in hybrid. The plug-in hybrid will also have a gas engine that kicks in when you're out of electric range. The benefits are you lower your emissions more, obviously, with a battery only electric vehicle. You also get more of the savings, not only on gas, but also on maintenance. Plug-in hybrids tend to have more maintenance costs just because they still have that gas engine that you need to maintain. Really a great place to compare what you're saving, not only with plug-in hybrids or battery only, but also just standard hybrids that don't have a plug-in, is that ev.pse.com tool we were just talking about. You can select 3 vehicles. I've done it myself. You select a Nissan Leaf plus a plug-in hybrid like the Prius Prime, and then you can also just select a regular Prius, and you can compare across the board what your savings are, what your costs are, your emissions reductions. It's really interesting. So if you feel like you need a plug-in hybrid for your uses, that's great. It's a stepping stone to maybe full electric, or it still will save you money and reduce your emissions.
I consider a plug-in hybrid to be an electric vehicle with training wheels. So I jokingly say that, but I have 2 of my friends own Prius Primes. In fact, one of them just visited me last week, and he was using gas right now because he had gone a whole year without using any of his gas, and he said he was afraid that the gas was going to go bad if he didn't use some of it, so or his engine go bad. So it's on the new plug-in hybrids, they actually have a program that'll start your engine for about 5 minutes if you go a month without starting it, because an engine that doesn't get used, dries out and that's not good for it. But he has a Prius Prime. He's got 30,000 miles on it, and I think he's used 5 tanks of gas in the 3.
Yeah, I heard from a customer a while back who was driving a plug-in hybrid, and he said he only filled it up once a year about, and he started to have to Google how long does gas stay good, which is not something he thought he would have to do.
In fact, the Chevy Volt was the most famous plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, and Chevy's no longer making the Volt. They make the Bolt. And yeah, whoever in GM came up with the idea to have Bolt and Bolt, and let me tell you, I have to explain to people the difference between the two, other than B and B, but one's pure battery, and that's the Bolt, and so they're not producing the Volt anymore.
Yeah, let's see if
Great. We've had a couple questions come in. Even though it's a beautiful, bright, sunny day, we are still having, people are still thinking about the cold weather. And so both Lori and Ronald asked about the effects of the cold, freezing temperatures on an EV, both charging and driving and range. So,
Sure.
Dick, do you have experience with that?
Yeah, well, since my car, fortunately my vehicle's in a garage, and so the garage is at 45, 50 degrees, not 30 degrees. But around here, it doesn't really affect it too much. We don't get the super cold weather like you would say other places in the country. It gets down to 0. Your battery capacity is maybe 5 to 10% less when it's really cold versus, and then of course, if you're driving, you got the heater on, that's going to take down your range too a little bit. But 10% would be a good, if you were down to 30 degrees versus being 70 degrees.
Yep. So a couple of things I'd like to add. There are a lot of tips and tricks to keep your range higher in the cold weather. They say if you have an EV with seat warmers, use those instead of the regular heater. That'll preserve your range. You can also warm up your car while it's still plugged in at home. So there you're not running down your range at all, getting it up to temperature. So yeah, just there are things you can do to mitigate that if it's a concern.
I have a friend who's got one of the new ones, and he just has a phone app, and he has to leave at 7 a.m. and he has the preheat start at about 6:45. So when he gets to the car, it's really nice and toasty and defrosted, and then he unplugs it. And so he's starting with 100%, and we're talking about pennies worth of electricity. So it's not like it's a waste. It's like 2 cents, maybe 3 cents worth of electricity to get your car preheated and seat warm and the steering wheel warm, and you know, all good.
Yeah.
All good.
I'm not sure if any of you have experience with this, but we've had some questions about customers who don't have a charger at home. Either they live in a condo or they don't have a dedicated parking space. Do you have any recommendations for them if they want to buy an EV?
Sure. That's a legitimate difficulty, especially for people who live in multifamily homes. There are obviously a lot of multifamily properties are installing charging stations more and more. We're working with a couple dozen right now at PSE to install charging stations. So hopefully it becomes less of a problem in the future. Though if you don't have one now and you're interested in EV, maybe you have a workplace that has charging stations. More workplaces are getting them installed so you can charge while you're at work. There also are charging stations popping up around various cities at grocery stores or shopping centers. You can stop by one of those to charge if you need to. But yeah, so just hopefully, someone mentioned PlugShare in the comments right here. PlugShare is a great place to look for charging stations near you. You can plug in your address and see just how many public available charging stations are there. And I think if you haven't looked before, you'd be surprised. I know I plug in my address and there are a good deal of public charging stations near me that I just never seen and wasn't aware of. So it's not ideal. Hopefully it's a situation that improves, and I think it will. But there are ways you can do it. It's just going to take a little bit of planning on your part.
Yeah.
I just saw a note from Dominic that said that in their condo unit, 2 owners paid to initially wire and install chargers, and then others can join on in the future for a share of the cost. So it looks like some people are getting creative with how to figure that out. Great. I saw a question come in about the cost of charging, and I know we touched on that a little bit, but I'm wondering if, Dick, you can talk about the effects on your bill and what you saw when you switched to an EV.
Well, I don't know of the effects of my bill because it's small. You know, my electric bill in wintertime runs $200, $250 a month because I'm an all-electric house, and that's I know with the calculation that the electric vehicle portion of that is about $15. So instead of having a $200 bill, maybe a $215 bill. So yeah, my car uses probably less electricity than my dryer does or my refrigerator does, but definitely a lot less than my heat pump, which I use to heat my house. So so it's
great.
Yeah.
We have just one more minute, so we'd love to know what's your #1 tip, Dick, for somebody that's looking to buy their first EV. And just a note to everybody, we have a lot more questions that we didn't get to, so we will follow up and answer those
let me tell you
by email.
#1 tip you want to drive is come, literally, I'm not saying that my own, come to one of my electric vehicle festivals or any other festival. I had 32 different types of vehicles there last year, and you're not talking to dealers, you're talking to owners, you're talking to real people who can tell you why they drive a Prius Prime, or they can tell you why they drive a Mitsubishi Outlander or a Nissan Leaf or a Tesla. There's a lot of vehicles out there. So when you come to one of these festivals, you're talking to real people who have real experiences and can tell you the pros and cons of driving electric. That's my best. Just show up and talk to real people, and that's what we do. That's why we have these events. You know, the people who show up with their electric vehicles are there because they're proud that they drive electric. Like literally 2 years ago, I had 125 vehicles there, and 32 different types, including buses and you name it, electric motorcycles. We had a lot of stuff there, and everybody had a great time. It was a real festive experience. It's no cost, and you go down the line and talk to everybody. So.
Great. And yeah, while we can't do in-person events right now due to COVID, we do encourage you to join our future EV event. So look for emails about that. And And yeah, if you have any questions that we didn't get to, you can feel free to send those again to electricvehicles@pse.com. And Trayvon will probably be the one replying.
Sign up for that newsletter. You'll be the first to hear about it as soon as we can host our public ride and drives again.
Yeah.
Waiting for those.
Great. Well, thank you everybody for joining today. It was wonderful to have you here, and hope you all take care and stay safe.
Bye, everyone.